All right. Good evening. Tonight is April 11th, 2023. This is the Hanson Select Board meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. As usual, we've got a jam-packed agenda, but before we jump into that, a couple of things. Wanted to mention that we are being taped by Whitman Hanson Community Access Television. And with that, Mrs. Rand, I'm wondering if I could prevail upon you to read the public announcements.
Sure. There will be a voter registration session held on Friday, April 21st from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Town Hall. This will be the last day to register to vote for the May 1st annual and special town meeting. Any citizen may register to vote online or by mail-in registration. Any resident citizen who will be 18 years of age by May 1st is eligible to register to vote by April 21st. We are looking for citizens at large to become members of the newly revitalized Cable and Internet Committee, Community Preservation and Highway Study Committee. Volunteer applications may be found on the town's website, www.mass-ma.gov, or by calling the Select Board's office at 781-293-2131. It's covered up by...
Yeah, 2131.
All right.
Yep.
The Hanson Historical Society is hosting its annual turkey dinner on Thursday, May 4th, 2023, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Camp Kiwanee. Speaker Judith Calora will be portraying Hedy Lamarr. The tickets are $20. For tickets, please call 781-294-8645. Please leave a message and your call will be returned. Upcoming meetings: Select Board, April 25th, 2023. Annual Maytown meeting, May 1st, 2023. Should I mention at 6:30?
Yes.
Special Maytown meeting, May 1st, 2023, and the Select Board meeting is also meeting May 1st, 2023.
Thank you, Mrs. Rand. Okay, that brings us to a couple of exciting appointments. And first up would be a vote to appoint Joseph Gambakis as Town of Hanson Veteran Service Officer for an annual term. And as I had mentioned prior to us opening the meeting, if I completely killed your name, I apologize in advance. Well, we are thrilled to have you here, and we are thrilled to have our departing Mr. White here. Lisa, I'm not quite sure. Who wanted to make some comments? Did you want to start off? Did you want to have Mr. White make some comments?
I'm just going to turn it right over to our departing Veterans Officer.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tim.
Shall I sit right here with the microphone? Or?
Yes, we've conveniently located this table here. Yes.
Looks great. So thank you, Madam Chair, Select Board members, Town Administrator. Yeah, I'm thankful. We've had a long process. We interviewed a lot of candidates, and very thankful that Mr. Gambakis Jr. accepted the position. I wanted to just kind of brief you a little bit about him, and just really in short, he's been working with the National Guard, the Family Programs Office, as a case manager, and part of his duties are outreach to deployed unit members, families, or family members. He's assisted with family members on rental assistance and using the RAFT program. During his military career, he was a recruiter and was awarded the Gold Recruiter Award. In addition, he served 2 tours in Iraq and was awarded the Bronze Star Medal. And then finally, he's also working on his second bachelor's degree in IT capacity. So what impressed us about Mr. Gambakis Jr., his knowledge, skills, and abilities are, some of the things to really expand upon the position, which is outreach, which we've lacked, during the COVID years, but now that's over. And, being awarded as a gold recruiter, he knows how to outreach. And so with that, And although he doesn't do the exact same duties as a veterans agent, being in the family programs, they're very similar. So it's taking care of military families and military service members while they're deployed. So I think it's, you know, it basically is an equal as far as, you know, taking on the new responsibilities of what this job holds. And then, you know, on this, just getting his bachelor's degree in a IT capacity helps on the computer side, right? Just, you know, whether it's posting and knowing Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff that comes with it, and really getting the word out to the community, maybe in a different capacity than what I've done. So I just thought his skills and his history is very impressive, and I think he'll be a great ambassador for the town. I'm here just to relay that to you all. So anyway, I'm thanking him for, you know, coming aboard.
Well, I'm happy that we were able to find somebody so that you're feeling comfortable moving on, that you're leaving somebody, you know, you're leaving us in good hands. Because I know you live in Hanson, and I know that this job was important to you, and, you know, and you took care of our veterans, and now you're going to feel comfortable that we've got somebody who's going to carry on that legacy. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Tim, for everything that you've done. All the many, many things behind the scenes that nobody knew, all the crazy stuff to get ready for the parades, and all the outreach and the support that you did. And it's very much an unsung hero job, but it's a job that's super important. So we really thank you. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to?
I just want to say thank you for your service first and foremost,
Yeah.
and continued service. And also, with Tim leaving, you have incredibly large shoes to fill, but I hope you don't have to sit with the pressure of that, and you really truly make this position your own. I think it's really important that that this becomes who you are, and when you get a full endorsement from these folks, I think you're going to do a fantastic job. So welcome aboard.
And did you want to say anything, or?
Come over here.
Sure.
So I really don't know how to address the board just yet, but I'd like just to thank the town for having me, and I look forward to serving the community and the veterans at large, and thank you very much.
Well, we thank you, and we're really looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Anything else, guys?
Joe, we're not really that formal. Address me as Jim, and with your last name, I hope I can address you as Joe. But I did want to thank you for your service, both of you, not only to the town, but to the United States. You know, so, you know, and the one thing we won't have to say anymore, and Joe just said it, is welcome aboard. You being from the Army and Tim being from the Coast Guard, we don't have to say that anymore. I'm not sure what term we'll use, but it won't be welcome aboard.
For me, farewell and following seas.
Oh, there you go. So again, just, you know, thanks for your service and welcome to the town.
Thank you for having me.
Anything else, guys? Okay, well, we look forward to working with you, and welcome. I won't say aboard.
One last thing I'll just say is I am going to be training Joe. He starts next week. And we'll be scheduling veterans to come in, kind of work them together. So I've already spoken to the town administrator and assistant town administrator of Rockland, and you know, they're very happy with you know, how we're going to proceed, and more than willing to help the town of Hanson kind of get to, you know, when, you know, Joe's really taken over and doesn't need me anymore.
We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I can just add, Tim, then you're going to help Joe at the parade.
I will help. I will lead him to it, and then he will take the reins.
Yeah, the timing.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's a good point. So that will be your first public.
I look forward to it.
So we're looking for a vote?
We are looking for a vote, yep.
I
To
will-
appoint Joseph Gambakis as Town of Hanson Veteran Service Officer for an annual term.
So moved.
Second.
Beginning on, is today the official beginning, or did you want a different date for his
April
annual
18th
term?
will be his first day.
April 18th, okay. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay, great, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And next up, we have vote to appoint Margaret Cameron
Let Joe
Hickey
know we're
as
going to send his employment.
Camp Kawani Beach Director. Ms. Green, relative to Margaret Cameron Hickey, was there anything that you wanted to share with us?
Yes, actually, we did receive, there's an email from Ms. Dory Jamieson recommending Margaret Cameron Hickey as the beach director. She comes from experience as a, working with the Y, with the lifeguards. She comes with a lot of experience working, training lifeguards, working with facilities, with swim lessons, and she is familiar with collecting, with the beach passes that they're going to be, Cranberry Cove passes that they're going to be implementing
Didn't
this
she
year.
work at Camp Kawani for a while?
I believe she did for a little
quite a
while,
while.
yes.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
has been the beach
COVID, so-
director in the past when it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's looking forward to coming on board, and the Camp Kawani Commission, as well as their chair, we are all recommending that the board appoint Margaret Cameron Hickey as the Camp Kawani Beach Director.
Well, I'm thrilled to have her. She's very passionate about Camp Kawani. She's very passionate about swimming. She's got an incredibly impressive resume, which I got to know when she was attempting to have a camp there, and we're so fortunate to have somebody with her qualifications willing to do this job. Did anybody have any questions for Ms. Green? Okay, then I will entertain a motion. Did you have a question?
No, I have a question. Is she related to you?
Nope.
No,
Okay,
she's
just
not. No.
similar name.
Yeah.
Same name, okay. Just wondering, because there's a lot of Hickeys around.
Yes, there are. I will entertain a motion to vote to appoint Margaret Cameron Hickey as Camp Kawani Beach Director. Do we have a term for that, or just in terms of the period of time?
I don't believe there's a term.
Okay.
Just because it's a seasonal position.
Yeah, okay.
With normal appointments, her appointment would come, she would be appointed for this season, and then when we do appointments next June, her name will be on that list as long as she's willing to move forward with the position.
Okay, I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. That brings us to our interim town accountant update. Greetings, Mr. Kirchhoff. And, I feel that this seems a little presumptuous to have people sitting at this table, but...
That's okay. Hey,
Okay, if it
I
works
don't
for
mind.
people, okay. So greeting, we would love to hear from you, as there's much gnashing of teeth and clutching of pearls about our budget, as there always is, I might add, at this time of the year. 'Tis the season. And so we would love to hear from you on
Sure.
where we're at and what your thoughts are.
okay. So, first of all, Lisa's been working really hard. We've been working really hard on the budget. And as you know, because you guys had that nice meeting with the 3.75% and so forth. So, what I've been doing is all the articles on your town meeting warrant, I kind of put a little scorecard together in the right spot. So if everything passes as is now on that warrant article, and with our current budget, we'd probably have about 30 or 40,000 of free cash left from like 859,000.
Which is pretty,
Yeah, that's pretty tight. So, so that is basically, using a toothpick and a elastic band to get the budget passed. So that would work. As you know, to get down to this point, there was probably like $800,000 in adjustments and stuff that had to be made to get down to this like balanced budget point.
and Eric, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, I know you did reference this, but for clarity's sake,
Yep.
that is dipping into free cash to bring us down to, what dollar amount was that again?
Like $39,000.
Okay, and that is all predicated on 3.75 for the schools?
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay, so if 3.75% of schools, we could probably just barely make it, Now, the other thing that you asked me to do, and I did, currently, the school committee voted, first of all, the 3.75% is basically a $500,000 increase from last year. So $496,000, so let's get that out there. So if it's approved at 3.75%, Hanson will be increasing its assessment by $496,000. But if for some reason, the school committee actually asked for an assessment of $14,161,000, and that's above the 3.75%. So if that ended up passing, we'd have to cut $420,000 from the budget with no free cash to backload it or whatever. So it's not really, if that school budget passes as is, it's not going to be very pretty situation for the town of Hanson.
How much do we have in capital? I mean, because we can only, so let's play the devil's advocate, you're saying $420,000 more that we'd have to come up with. And that would mean no capital improvements whatsoever.
That's right.
And I might add that we are using one-time ARPA money for some of the articles.
Absolutely.
In addition to free cash. So we're tapping every avenue we can think of. So we'd be looking at some personnel
Yes.
layoffs. There'd really be no other.
Yeah, I can't, it would be almost impossible to cut that much from the budget without getting into personnel.
And again, we're not suggesting that that's what this board wants.
Right.
What this board wants is the 3.75 assessment.
Yes, and so hopefully they'll be able to do the 3.75%. I mean, they have some one-time sources of revenue for the schools that are untapped. I'm hoping, since Hanson's using it, hoping like the schools would kind of use it as well. So I think they could get the money that they're looking for, but just not on the backs of the town of Hanson right now.
Yeah, my understanding is that they'll be talking about this, I believe, tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that all three parties will get together to calibrate and come up with what is seen as reasonable to all. I'm hopeful.
So as your accountant, I feel like got a good control where the numbers are now, all the levers and stuff. So I would just wait to see, if the school goes up, that lever goes here, we're gonna do that, so we're in good shape, like accounting wise, got it nice and organized. We know where we stand. So I feel good about that part. So it's just, waiting and seeing.
And how much do we have in stabilization?
Okay. Oh, man.
Because that will be asked at town meeting. How much is
Yes.
in free cash and how much is in stabilization?
Okay.
Those are the first two questions that generally get
All right,
asked.
sure. Okay. So, hey, I'm glad you asked. We have 1.6 million in stabilization right now, 1,637,000, and we have 859,000 in unappropriated free cash as we stand here today. Those town meeting warrants would take 819,000 from that figure, and that's where we got the 39,000. So that's kind of where we stand now. And since add a little bonus coverage here, we actually are using ambulance receipts reserve to help balance the budget as well. So last year we took 625, this year we're proposing 725,000.
Wow, okay.
So with that, we'd have about 672,000 left in that account. And I know you guys are kind of using it to buy ambulances and things like that. So, so that's kind of, where we're at with that.
And in terms of the stabilization, what would you normally be recommend? Like, you're not recommending that we touch the stabilization at this point?
Not at all.
Okay.
Because U.S. as a town, like when you go up for bonding and so forth, you're supposed to have a fund balance as a percentage of your total budget that's like above 5%. And since free cash is so volatile, I mean, you'd want that when the town goes out for bondings and credit ratings and so forth. That's like the town's, reserve fund, or if some emergency came up. And sometimes what happens with the stabilization fund is, as an accountant, we've had situations where the free cash didn't get certified in time and they needed money at the town meeting, so they'd take the stabilization fund, get the stuff funded, and then put the money back once free cash, stabilization. So that's kind of like what I've kind of seen it used for.
Okay, all right. Did anybody have any questions for Mr. Hill?
This is my first time going through this process, so mine might be a little off the wall, but my concern, I have many concerns, but some of them are that you're talking about 375, which I don't understand why we're even allowing that high a number, because it's using one-time funds to get there. I'm worried about future years, even more than this year. I'm worried about future years, because if we do 2.5 on top of what we're already extending ourselves, next time it's gonna be
Yep.
totally undoable. Even at 2.5%, we're not gonna be able to.
That's a good point, and, you know, working with Lisa, we were going over different scenarios, because as an accountant, I would say, like, yeah, the lower the better, but we try to strike a balance of, you know, we try to strike a balance when we pick that number. Like, it was arbitrary, you know, more of an art than a science picking it.
Right.
But I think we actually had 3.5 and 4%, so then we came up with the 3.75%. And the revenue growth for the tax levy is like 3.5%
Right.
this year, so that's kind of with some logic, you know.
And you also mentioned that the stabilization fund should be at 5%. If everything goes as you're saying, we do the 3.75 goes, what percentage will we be at come the end of May or wherever it is, or about where we are now? Are we at,
Yep.
are we at the 5?
Oh, there we go. So let me see. So 10% would be 3.3 million. So half of that, yeah. Actually, probably almost exactly at 5, maybe a little bit below it.
We're a little
So we
below.
really can't.
Yeah.
No, I'm not suggesting we do. You just mentioned
but
the 5%.
yeah, that's funny that you said that. So yeah, that's,
And I guess going back to my original question, what does this do for future years? If we say 3.75, which I'm hoping we can do, because I don't think we're gonna get much lower, unfortunately. But if we do 3.75 now, it just ramps up.
this
for
is my
future
thought
years.
process, because we dealt with this in Braintree too. We had to make budget cuts one year, but I think the day after that town meeting passes that budget vote, you start immediately working on the next FY25 budget. You just start right away, because we had to go through that. We just like, once we got through, and we just like started right away. So I know there's some money in the budget for like financial forecasts and this and that, but right away, you just have to start grinding it out right away, kind of try to be a little bit more proactive.
Yep.
So that, you know, as soon as that budget passes, that's the day you start doing the FY25 budget and project out.
Thank you.
Mr. Weeks?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for all the hard work, everybody, for doing this, because it's not easy. So how much of the one-time funds is going into this to bring us to the numbers that you're presenting today?
The one-time funds for the operating budget is about 200,000, like for free cash. And then actually, there's another 50,000 in overlay surplus as well. The assessors just declared overlay surplus. So there's probably like about 250,000 in, that's going towards the operating budget. And then the rest of the one-time funds are going for like different articles. But I guess you can make an argument that some of these one-time funds are funding supplemental budgets for fire department overtime, police vest, this and that, and that's coming from free cash. So technically,
Yeah.
that's not coming from recurring revenue, that's kind of like a little
Right,
facade.
so that's kind of where I'm going with
Yeah.
some of these things,
Yeah.
is because I'm always thinking about next town meeting, and you said we have, what, a balance of 40-something thousand?
Right. Be like-
So what happens if, come October town meeting, when we have to readjust the budget and make adjustments, do it?
That's a good question. So basically, that would be $40,000 in unappropriated free cash, which is the fund balance. But now, when the books get closed for FY 2023 in June, then we'll look at our performance. We'll say how much were the revenues above the estimates, how much are turnbacks and stuff, and then we'll get the free cash recertified. So we'll have it's not going to be 40,000. It's going to be 40,000 plus whatever favorable performances that we've had. So what happens is, when budgets are tight, you kind of like, you're more aggressive on the revenue estimates, and that's where the free cash kind of goes down, because you don't have the luxury of just saying, hey, I'll just, lowball this and build up to free cash. So that's kind of where we're at now, because we actually bumped up a couple things like the meals tax, and we really looked hard at the local receipts to give a reasonable, reasonable amount. So to make a long story short, the 39,000, we're not going to be looking at 39,000 available for the special town meeting. We'll be looking at 39,000 plus whatever our performance is this year. So.
But just to be clear, what you're saying is we've been super aggressive with this budget.
Oh, no
Okay,
doubt.
I just want to make sure that that's
Absolutely,
clear. Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I uncovered every rock, I mean, this is like a MacGyver budget, you know, it's,
Oh, God.
yeah.
The clothespin.
Mrs. Rand just had something. Yep.
So I'm new at this also, and explain to me, how is the free cash replenished? Because that sounds like we're really getting down to the bottom of the.
Yeah, the only way it gets replenished is, when we estimate revenues at the beginning of the year for FY '23, if the revenues come in greater than what we estimated, and it gets replenished when people turn back money in the budget, like if there's, money in the budget that's appropriated in the budget that gets turned back. So we had a discussion about like unused articles. So if we looked at, we're starting to look at these unused articles, and if they're not gonna be spent, that can build up the free cash too, because right now that gets reserved on your balance sheet. So if we have like a couple $100,000 of articles that town voted but never got spent, and there's no intention of getting spent, that'll help build up
Okay.
the free cash.
Because, you know, times are hard and costly for all of us right now, and it's,
Yeah.
everybody has to pull in their horns, I think.
Yeah.
Mr. Weeks, are we done, or?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Mrs. Rand, did you have anything else?
No, I just,
Okay. Mr.
learning.
Hickey?
Okay, so, Eric, the question I would ask, because I think we are, you know, treading lightly here, not to get anyone upset. Why in the town, where an increase is 2.5% across the board, can you tell us why, and some of us know the answer, but can you tell us why, for the 7 people listening at home, why the school budget would be 3.75, or as Whitman stated, they were going to do 5. I'm sure that's going to change after last week's meeting and tonight. But why is the school budget at 3.75 where other town departments
Right.
are only at 2.5?
I think that's kind of where Ed was coming from, yeah.
Right, yeah, and that would have to be looked at, I mean, because when we did, budget cuts in Braintree, all we did is like we had cuts, we had to make $6 million of cuts in the town, and the only way to do it fairly was you took the percentage of your budget, like if the schools was 60% of the budget and the shortfall was 6 million, they'd have to take 6 million of that. Same with the police, fire.
So everybody took the same cut?
Yeah, it was.
And they figured out how they were going to
That's
take
right.
the cut?
Then they
Okay.
managed to say, here's your money that you
Yep.
have. I mean, it was the easiest way to administer it. And believe it or not, that year that we had to cut $6 million from the budget was, and there was layoffs and stuff and impact bargaining because people, you know, got laid off and had to figure out that employment. But believe it or not, that was an easy year than the next year when we had $1 million in free cash to spend on capital. That was more contentious when we had the extra $1 million than when we had to cut the $6 million.
So then, let me ask you then, because I've heard it both ways, where if the town of Hanson gives a 2.5% increase to all departments,
Yep.
And Whitman gives a 2.5% increase to their departments,
Yeah.
it seems to me that the school wants 5%, because it's 2.5 from Whitman, 2.5.
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense logically, because especially if we had our own school system, perhaps our Chapter 70 money would go up and would have that extra money to fund the school budget. But that Chapter 70 money goes directly to the schools, so we're paying the difference. So any like state aid, like because I called John Sandbrook, well, I emailed him, I said, as soon as I found out his budget, the Chapter 70 money went up, I said, if that money goes up, our assessment should go down. It should be a 1-for-1. But the simplest way I could put it, as far as like the schools go, and I think with Ed Reform, this is what Ed Reform was designed to do. The schools have autonomy to spend what they want to educate the kids. Each town is supposed to just give their fair share, and it's called like net school spending. So I'm almost positive that, you know, the legally required mandated share, I'd be shocked if you guys, both towns, like are millions and millions of dollars above of, you know, of what they should do to fund the schools. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, because obviously the town has some values like, you know, going to the schools. But if you're in a city, the way they do their budget is what's the statutory minimum we have to pay, and that's what they get.
So, let me ask you, and I could be wrong, but I thought the school budget was 46.9%, so 47% of our budget. Am I correct on that? Not that it really matters.
Yeah.
So if we did have to make cuts across
Well,
the board,
Yeah,
I would think that we would do it like Braintree did, where 47% of it would have to come from the schools, and the other 53% come from all the rest of the departments, so that not one department takes a big
right,
hit.
and that's why, like next year, right away, you can do a revenue forecast for FY '25. That's the discussions that you have, actually, you have to pick a year to be the baseline, so maybe this would be the baseline year, FY '24. That'll establish the percentages and stuff, and then, that's the easiest way to administer it.
And I just have one more. I wanted to follow up on Joe's question, because with the 39,000, that leaves very little wiggle room that if we needed an emergency repair, like the senior center and library, what...
Right, and I also have to mention too, that there's 150,000 in the reserve fund for FY '23. FY '24, that's cut down to 125, for the reserve fund, because we need to do something to try to uncover so there'll be a little less reserves on that end as well.
Okay, and the only other question, and I wanted to make sure I got this right, so we're putting in $250,000, you had mentioned the 200,000 and then the 50,000.
Right.
So we're putting in out of money that we don't
That's
really
right,
have.
that's right.
Okay. How much, and I could have called Deputy Chief O'Brien. Oh, no, he's the acting chief now, right? I could have called Acting Chief O'Brien to get the cost of an ambulance. Do you know the cost off the top of your head?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Just from,
But we are taking...
$500,000-600,000.
We are taking 600,000 from that account.
Yes, to balance the budget, yes.
Which is a lot of money.
Yep. Last year, you guys did 625, and I looked at the trends. The ambulance fees were coming in pretty good this year. So, but still, it's just another, it's not a luxury. So basically, there's going to be 725,000 coming to support the fire chief's budget. And like I said, that would leave 672,000. So hopefully, this was as of February 28th, so hopefully the receipts for March, April, May, and June would build it up a little bit more, so at the end of the year, we'll...
We're not wishing ill health on anybody.
Right, no, I get it.
But you're taking almost half of that, of what they have.
That's right.
Okay.
To balance, yeah.
So I get it that this is scary, and I get it that this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that everybody understands. The only other thing is I wanted to follow up Laura, which I think is a great idea, to get all three parties involved. Lock us in a room.
If you guys agree, then
figure it
I'll
out.
reach out and
I think we have to. I'm stuck with this. Do we even have, from even anecdotally, do we have enough growth that once we start, because I agree with you, because I've been saying it, the day that this budget gets approved, we have a huge mountain to climb for next year.
Yes.
And we really have to take it serious. You might know better than me, but I don't think we have the growth, and I don't think we have the inflation ability to keep up with all of this, because we're using substantial amounts of one-time costs.
Absolutely.
To fund operations, let alone capital improvements. And, because I was thinking about this since our last meeting, aside from the 1/3 of the folks that are on fixed income that really we have to pay attention to, interest rates for families that are coming into this town, that second third, interest rates for new homes are like 7%. There's no wiggle room. So we have even if I'd like to entertain the idea of doing drastic options on one way or another to increase revenue, the new families moving into this town, their mortgages are going to be through the roof simply because there's a housing crisis that we also have to take incredibly serious. So I'm already, thinking about how we're going to solve this problem come May 2nd.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that Madam report, if town meeting funds it, and hopefully they will because it's coming from ARPA funds, it isn't coming from free cash, or at least that's the proposal on the table, if you guys all agree. I'm really hoping that financial forecast is going to be the beginning of us getting more discipline around this, instead of sort of getting a gut feeling, which typically our gut feelings are right, but I like to really look at empirical data and say, look, the numbers are really clear. The growth is going to be this, our revenue is going to be this, our costs are going to be this. We can't we can't do this. You know, we've got to come back to the table and Whitman's already been able to do that because they've got that Manham report, you know, so-called Manham report. And I'm hopeful that if we get that as a tool in our toolbox, that's going to be helpful to us, so.
You know, I used to always say like big picture stuff too. I said, like, what do you see in the future? I said, in the future, I see that we have to leverage technology to provide services. And I used to say, in the future, I see a smaller, more skilled and better paid workforce leveraging technology to get some of this stuff done. Like,
That makes a lot of sense.
you know.
And again, we're not suggesting this is happening overnight
Right,
or.
but that's just like
yeah.
in concept.
Yep.
Something like that would have to, I mean, you know, take place. Because I always say, like, hey, remote learning, I used to just like say, hey, remote learning, why not have a couple high school classes done remote?
Yeah, it's true.
Ms. Green, I thought you had your hand up. Did you want to chime in?
I just, Vice Chair Weeks had asked a question regarding how much of the one-time money that we're using. And so in the special, the total amount of the one-time money, which is the ARPA money that we're using, is $121,704.
Okay.
And actually, we're going to add hopefully 10,000 to that because the Madden report will be included in this table. So that will bring us up to 131,704 in the one-time the ARPA money.
So,
Thank you.
come next year, when we figure out what's 2.5%, it's 2.5% including the one-time funds? Do you know what I mean? So the one-time funds are truly one-time, so that 100,000.
So we're starting May 2nd, 131 in the hole to try to play catch-up on, because we're not gonna have this.
Right.
Right,
year.
but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They're gonna count that 131,000 when they're figuring out the assessment for next year, but we don't have the ARPA funds to fill it. So we're really digging a hole
Yep.
as we go. I mean, it
And
sounds
that's what
great.
happens. You have a choice. You can do what we're doing.
Yeah.
Or you can put an override
Yep.
on. There's,
Or
you know,
alternatively, if there was, I mean, some people say, well, let's, in a business or something, sometimes they say, well, let's just take the cuts down, you know what I mean? Like, they take the cuts down ahead of time. But in a municipality, it's like, you basically, your job is to get as much service as you can out of each tax dollar. So,
Yep.
so you're not in the business to make a profit or whatever,
Right.
so.
I feel comfortable that we are squeezing
Oh, yeah.
everything we can out of this budget. Mr. Weeks, do you have
I was
something?
gonna say, I think you just said it nice, there's no one department that's more important than the other, because when the roads are icy, you're gonna really value your highway department, and when you have a fire, you're gonna value your police department, and when your kids wanna get taught, you're valuing your school, so there's no easy.
Well,
decision.
absolutely, yeah, and somebody's
It's-
sick and the ambulance come, they could say
Yeah.
the same thing.
So, I mean,
Yep.
there's not one thing that's more important than the next.
Mr. Hickey?
And Ed, I just wanted to like add to what Joe said about growth. There's not going to be much.
No.
So it was a great idea that Lisa came up with that meal tax. But we
Yes.
need to hold some feet to the fire. And when I say that, I am talking about cannabis, where we have received zero funds.
That's actually not true,
Oh.
no, that's not true. We got our first check, but also, I just had a discussion this afternoon in the office with Lee Gamache, our assessor, and she's gonna work with Jean Sullivan and Miss Green, and at our next meeting, they'll be talking about all of the revenue, the one-time money for the 3% that we've received, the property tax and the personal property within the building. We've received a significant amount of money from that organization. So I know that seems to be the narrative out there, that we haven't gotten any. We certainly haven't gotten what we had expected to date on the 3%, but we have gotten money from that organization. So Lisa will be giving that update at our next meeting.
Okay, so that's going to be next week.
Yes,
So we have to
well,
wait a
the
week.
20, whatever it is. Well, Lee wanted to have an opportunity to put the numbers
Alright.
together, so.
And Ed, one thing you may want to look into or put some pressure on is the tax title properties. I
Yes.
know it is a one-time fund, but it puts those properties back on the tax roll and gives us
Yep.
a big chunk of change.
Well, my
Which may
understanding
help out
is,
next year.
at last night's planning meeting, and we're totally going wildly off script here, but we're just covering anything having to do with revenue. Last night's planning board meeting, there was a conversation by the planning board that they would like to, and we've discussed this generally, but they as a board and with Tony DeFrias's help, would like to package the town-owned property in a more effective and more economical way where we're getting all those permits in place. So when we sell it, it's not a crapshoot on whether the person buying it is going to be able to get a ZBA or conservation or whatever.
Right.
They're going to try to package that up. If it has to go to conservation, if it has to go to planning, if it has to go to ZBA, they're going to walk it through all those land use boards and permitting, so that when it goes to auction, what will be sold will be a property that has the permits in place. And you'll be very clear about what you're getting. You won't have to wonder, oh, is that wetlands? Should I, maybe I'll lowball it. And the reason that that's so important is I've had a couple of developers say to me, you guys are crazy just selling this stuff without getting all the permitting in place, because it's so easy for us to get the permitting in place, and we're getting the property so much cheaper from you than we do from other towns who do all this permitting up front. So more to come on that, but I think it's a good development.
Do we, that's awesome, that's great news. I was wondering about that when the recent one was sold back over near me. Do we know about how long that will, I don't want to say slow down the process, but how much longer will the process take to get permits?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think, I feel very positive that we've got great people in all of the land use boards now, and that they're well-intentioned, and I think that if they know that this is a revenue source for the town, I feel hopeful that, we won't have any unnecessary impediments in the process.
Great, excellent.
But in short, I don't really know how much time that will add.
I think we as a board just need to push that along as much as we can.
Definitely. Sorry, we went off script
That's
there.
okay. Hey, it's all good.
Anything else for our interim town accountant? All right, this was a really good and, of course, incredibly timely update, and we appreciate
Thank you very
that.
much, and thanks for hiring me.
I think it's amazing that you're doing this on an interim basis.
Oh, you're not on pro bono?
I don't think so.
He's not pro bono
Thanks,
anymore?
sir.
All right, thank you very much. All right, with us this evening is Capital Strategic Solutions website plan. I'm sorry, on the agenda is Capital Strategic Solutions website plan, and with us via video conference, we have got the folks from Capital Strategic Solutions. Ms. Green, did you want to lay this up before we go to Nicole and company?
Sure. So as the board remembers, Capital Strategic Solutions, Nicole and Blythe came before the board a little bit back and talked about coming on board and assisting us with communications and social media. Somewhere along the line, there was a misunderstanding or a disconnect in the understanding of the scope of services that they were going to provide. And the website platform is one of the areas that there's some confusion that has developed. These folks are way better than I am in explaining it, and our IT director is with us as well. But hopefully they can explain it in a way that it's more understandable than what I can explain, because it's not my
Couple
area.
things. Can we possibly turn on the air conditioning? It's stifling in here. And in addition, I did send to the board, and I believe I copied you, video of those meetings and the minutes from our meeting, which I thought might be clarifying. And I also want to mention that it was not unanimously misunderstood what was going to be happening. But we're not going to point fingers, and we're not going to say that it might or might not have been along the lines of sex. And that the women understood what was being provided, but the guys maybe didn't. We're not going to say that. So with that, if you guys can kind of lay up, and I think Lisa probably explained to you that it's sort of like, we're not experts in this, right? We're dabbling. And so it really was a question of platform and then the actual design. so that, like, kind of that line of the design of what we put on the platform. So I don't know if Nicole or who's going to be taking that one.
Sure. So, hello again.
Hi.
Good evening. Thank you for having us again. We're excited to be here and to talk a little bit about this project because we're eager to get it going, as is, I'm sure, the town. What we have outlined in our contract is to provide those support services to help migrate all of that information on your existing website to your new platform with Revise. So Blythe can talk about like the site mapping and the things that need to get cleaned up in order for it to go there. And I will turn it over to Blythe.
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. So, as we understand, the town has already chosen a new website platform, which is Revise. I think the contract has been executed. But regardless of whether it was them or a different platform, you know, those companies are going to provide you with an array of things that can go on a new website, and they will give you some direction about what maybe is good in a website and what the services are that you can use going forward. But then they will expect you internally to work to make decisions about what you want your homepage to be, what is prominent when you first start, and then behind the scenes, how the whole site works and how information flows is completely your decision. I have worked with Revise myself before, and I can tell you they'll do a Zoom meeting to explain how they want the site map laid out and then expect you to do it. So that's where our services come in, is to work with your team, because we understand that Lisa and Steve are very busy with other projects, to help guide this, because between Nicole and myself, we've done about a half a dozen website revisions to understand what Revise offers and then help your team make the decisions that they need to tell Revise what you want to see so they can lay it out for you. And then work with your team to make sure that if we're going to do things differently than you have before because you want to take advantage of the technology changes that have happened since you've done it the last time, we're going to help guide that. And then at the end, make sure that your site is fully accessible, that it meets all the record retention requirements, and set up what was called constant contact email subscriber information, so that, you know, as you're getting more information out to the community, people can sign up for more things and have more of a two-way communication than maybe they've had in the past. So our services were, I think, about 30 hours or a little less to work with your team and make that all happen. And I think that's pretty much covers it.
So when you are mapping, is there redundancy? Is the old material still sort of going to be on the website until we've got a complete green light that everything has mapped the way it should, that we've thoroughly vetted and QC'd it, and then it's looking and feeling good? And then do we archive the old website so that if for some reason something jumps the tracks, we've got an ability to exhume that out of the mothballs and somehow leverage it if we had to map? I don't know.
Yeah, well, you'll likely bring over most of the content you already have, because you've already spent years pulling that all together and adding things from when you first started it. And part of the decision is going to be what's relevant content that we need to continue to bring over, because that is one thing that Revise will do for you. Once you finish that map, then that is their work plan to bring all those things over and make sure all those links work in the way that you want it to be. And I don't recall how long it's been since you have the site that you have now, but things have changed, and maybe there's things that you have been wanting to have on your site that aren't there now, and we're going to have that conversation to make sure that it's as up-to-date and fresh with information that people want. As far as archived, I need to go back and ask them, but I think that the site you'll be leaving, you probably will be able to, you're always in charge of your own data, just not their platform. So I think that's possible, but I would want to triple check.
I was going to say, I believe that Civics Plus, I think is what we're on right now.
Yeah.
I think that that's out of date and it needs to be updated, so I don't know that how usable it would be going forward.
I was just thinking, like, that's the data is what I was, yeah.
The data is
Yeah.
ours, and that's going to get migrated over.
Now,
Yes.
what will be the process, because right now, as it stands, there's a lot of material on our website that needs an overhaul. We'll be diplomatic in saying that. If it's out of date, it's not necessarily accurate, not pertinent anymore, all of the above. What's the vetting process for mapping what we currently have, which may not be up to date, may not be really, accurate, and mapping it to the new website? I don't want to start with bad information on the new website, I guess is what I'm trying
Of
to
course,
say.
and neither do we. So that's where the contract calls for us to have individual meetings with your various department heads and understand what is dated, and that you're not going to want to move anymore, and what is material that people have been asking for, your departments know should be there, so we can make sure that that does get added on and all gathered up so it can be given to Revise and they can put it there. An example might be minutes of all of your board and committee meetings. Your town clerk may want to say that, gee, we've got, I'm going to make this up a little bit here, we've got 10 years of information there, but I think that it would be appropriate if we only had 7. And so then we will make it clear to the company that we want to just bring over 5, the 7 years and not the 10. But we're going to add something else that hasn't been there and should be. So that's all the conversations we have to have internally. And whether we do that for you or you find a way to do it on your own is a kind of work that has to happen. The company will guide you, but they won't do it for you. So that's what we provide.
All right, that's helpful. Any questions, guys? Mr. Hickey, you look
Steve had his
pensive.
hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. I don't have my glasses on, so if you had your hand up, I apologize. Steve?
Yeah, no worries. Yep, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to speak about the current content that's on Civic Plus. Once we migrate the data off that service, they will archive their website, and obviously probably will not be able to re-access that website. So I just wanted to give that heads up there. But once we're going to fully migrate everything, and the new website will be built in the background, while the old website's still up, and we won't make a cutoff until we're 100% satisfied with the current new website, and then we obviously switch over to the new website.
Okay, that's awesome, Steve. Thank you for that. That's very reassuring. Did anybody have
So
any?
we won't lose anything.
No, the only thing that
You won't lose anything, but it's more of a choice of what you want to have going forward if it's different than what you have today.
Right. And, if we don't, unfortunately, we can't get information from, certain boards and committees, that might be difficult for us as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well,
we need
yeah.
department head cooperation.
We need not just department, we just need everybody to cooperate
everybody,
and agree
Yeah.
that all of our jobs are to get information that citizens need to them real time, in a way that's meaningful, and that's just what we all exist for, period. Whether
exactly.
you're an employee or volunteer or whatever, all of the good work you're doing is for naught if there's not information about what you're doing out there for citizens to access. So that's what this is all about. We're into it. And yeah, I think, I don't know, Ms. Green, how we really extend an invitation to cooperate and participate. and get on board this website train, because I think it's an important message that I think probably should come from you on behalf of the board, that, you know, we've got this work going on, we're expecting full cooperation, and if people have got concerns, then they should speak to you individually. If perhaps they're concerned about their workload and whether they can take this on top, this is a priority for us, and long overdue, you know, and I think in this process, if we identify that there are perhaps committees that aren't being rigorous with posting things, or departments that aren't being rigorous, this is an opportunity for us to all have a fresh start. And moving forward, in order for this to be a meaningful exercise, we have to all keep it up to date all the time. And there has to be some discipline around that. So,
Just that over there.
I just want to be 100% clear, just so there's no more confusion. You're talking about the capital strategic solutions will guide us, but they won't do the migration, obviously. And the company we have now will probably help us extract data. Like, who's going to be doing what? Do we need to know that so that we're perfectly clear? Because Steve is one person, and I know he has the ability to do it, but the cycles to do it, I don't think so. We're going to need to set something up.
Did you want to address that question?
So once once we decide what the features are that the website's going to have, and Revise puts together that basic design, and you all sign off that you like the design and what is going to be, how that site is laid out, in terms of what people's first impression is on the home page. Then we sit down with the boards and departments, and we work with them to make sure that we know what they want to have on the site, and how it's going to flow from one section to another. It's important to make every website as easy for people to navigate as possible, as few mouse clicks as possible. So we want to work with them to say, how are people finding, say, financial information today? And if that's been difficult for them, how can we make that better and different? And we lay the site map out that way, and we show the Revise exactly where all that information is today. If it's not on your site, we give it to them, and we say we want it to be done exactly this way. That's what the site map tells them. It's a roadmap. And then they bring over all of the information from Civic Plus that currently exists, and they add in all the new information that isn't there now, so you have a complete package.
So they're doing the mapping.
Who's they?
They are.
Revise.
They are.
Revise.
We're just drawing the roadmap.
Okay, I don't see how they would, I mean, I guess if Steve understands it and is good with it, I just don't see how they can just take our data and know what we want and build us a site without us telling them what they want.
That's where Blythe is coming in. She's telling them what we want.
But she said that my question is earlier she said, we're not going to do it. We will help you do it, but we're not going to do that. They're not going to be that communicator. She said that we're going to help you be the communicator with them. And is she helping Steve?
We're going to help your departments and make sure that the site map is what you want it to be, so we can turn it over to Revise, and then they can migrate all the material and enter all the new material that we give them.
So Capital Strategic Solutions will design our site map with help of the departments here.
Exactly, yes.
But you will reach out to the departments.
At the end of the day, if the way that the information flows in the town clerk's office is just perfect, we'll map it exactly that way.
Okay.
If over time your departments have realized that it isn't flowing quite the right way, or we want to add some features that aren't there now, we'll put those on the map as well, and then we hand it to the company to say, this is how Hanson wants its site to flow, and this is where the information needs to be.
Okay, I just want to make sure we know who's going to get that site map to the...
Steve, are you...
It will take work by your departments and your boards to, tell us what's important, and work through how you want the site to look and work when they understand what the features are that they can use.
Steve, are you comfortable with all of this? Did we lose Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm right here. Yeah, so, I mean, we've had conversations about this and, you know, the goal is basically with the new website to make everything user-friendly for residents to be able to find the information that they need. And, you know, they're going to be a valuable resource in helping us create that site now.
But do you have any concerns about roles and responsibility? I mean, you don't feel as though there's a lack of clarity about who's responsible for what, right?
Not at all.
Okay. All right. Are you feeling better about it?
If Steve's good with it, I am.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go along
All
with
right.
that.
Did anybody else have any other questions? Mr. Hickey?
I do know that there was questions about
go ahead,
finance.
Steve. Yep, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so right now they're advisors looking for to be paid for the work that they've already started. And I know there's some questions on where the funding is coming from for this. And I was
Steve, I think it's best to take that offline with Ms. Green.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and Steve, you and I spoke about this, and I'm sure you recall the conversation we had, and it was about a 20-minute conversation, and you explained it to me in layman's terms. So I feel much better about the whole situation, you know, than I did a month ago or 6 weeks ago. You know, and I appreciate, you know, both you ladies coming and explaining it to us, but I mean, I feel much better talking to our own IT guy about it, and it was just a 20-minute conversation, so thank you, Steve.
Okay, Mr. Weeks just had some questions.
Just hopefully a really quick question. So back when we first started with this, what some of the questions that I was asking around was, you know, being able to train our folks to be able to pick this up and be able to do it. I'm coincidentally at one of my jobs just did an entirely, I took on a project very similar to this with a different platform, switched platforms, you know, mid-year. It can get complicated. I've done this at a different job where it gets expensive. So I'm coming full circle to cost. So are we going to be able to, let's just say the site mapping is all done and we sign off on it. We're good. This is the way it needs to be. But then we decide down the road that we want to add a couple of pages. We want to move some stuff around. I've done website migrations where, granted, they're like client record type, electronic health record type thing. So every little change costs like $10,000 for the platform service to make the change. And I've worked with smaller things, which I'm thinking this platform is like, where they'll train you to go in on the dashboard or in the back and just make these changes. Are there any, I guess moving forward, are there any hidden costs or costs that we need to be aware of that if we want to make changes after the fact, because we're not going to know what we actually like until we start rolling it out, we feel comfortable with it, and we want to make little improvements here and there. Are there any costs that we need to be aware of?
Not really, not from our perspective, but we might have them with Revise, depending on what choices you make about, say, what the basic outline of the whole the site is. For example, the last one that I did in Norfolk, Massachusetts, you know, we said we wanted to have 3 different calendars on the bottom of the home page, and so the designer built it with that. And then someone said later, oh gee, I also want to have a calendar for another board. They had to go back and fix that, and so there was a small cost to that. But one thing I really liked about their platform was it was very easy for staff, once they had the training Revise will provide, to make changes to the site. And I don't mean to, I'll just stay on the town clerk theme for now. If the clerk decided that she wanted on her page to add another sub-page for some service she starts providing, she is able to do that. She's just not going to change the site overall. So departments or boards will have limited ability to make adjustments because information changes and the things you do changes a little bit. but we'd also would really strongly recommend that the people who are going to use it go through that training. And it's important to make sure that everyone continues to update the site or add things to the site in the correct way, because it's really important to have, every picture needs to have a description on it, and you want to go through a certain step so that a phone number can be dialed from clicking the website. If someone's using their phone, those little things can get lost over time,
Right.
and then the website becomes less helpful. So I think there's going to need to be some internal decisions led by Steve and or Lisa about who's going to have access in the future to make sure that it stays as wonderful looking and interactive and up to date as you want it to be. When we step away and when you tell Revise, we're all set.
Okay, because that was part of one of the first two meetings that we had discussed. I was asking about having like a training, and I was under the impression that you guys were doing that. So is it going to be Revise that does this?
No, and Revise will teach you how to use their platform.
So you guys will not be doing that after? Okay. Okay.
We can provide additional support to your team if there's a question that comes up after Revise walks away. I think Revise will be walking away before we do.
Right.
At that point, we don't anticipate any further charge for that. I mean, we're already working with your team.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Green, I do want to make sure that we have a revised manual after the training is done, that we've got some documentation about how folks should be updating things.
They have a great manual. They have a great help section. I think the manual is about 86 pages, if I recall.
Okay.
But it'll be available to everybody who has access to the site.
Great, that's good to hear. Any other questions? Okay, well, we really appreciate you guys joining us one more time with Feeling, and we thank you for your patience. I'm sure we'll have our people calling your people, and we'll get things popping. So thank you so much.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. All right, now, that brings us to the WHRSD assessment, but I think out of an abundance of courtesy, which perhaps isn't so abundant anymore since I've made them wait through the rest of this meeting, I'm going to see if Mr. Skellinger and Mr. Clemens want to join us. We certainly have a bunch of other things to talk about with respect to the special and town annual town meeting articles, but I thought, why don't we just cut to the chase, talk to them about the conservation articles, and then we can circle back and talk about the remainder of the articles. Is everybody okay with that? All right, great. Gentlemen, if you can stay right where you are. You don't have to come to our new handy-dandy interrogation table.
Thank you, that way we'll feel less like the congressional hearing.
Exactly. That's not our intention. As you heard from our town accountant, things are dire. And so as we were going through the articles, we just didn't have any color commentary on the Phragmite article. I think was relatively self-explanatory, at least it was to me. And I don't think anybody really had any questions, although Ms. Green did note that you already had some unused Phragmite. Ms. Green, is this true? Some unused money that had already been allocated for, pardon?
Different property. That's true for the Camp Kawani property.
Okay.
This is not for that, it's for the adjacent Smitty's Bottom property.
Okay.
Two different projects, very related for the same reasons, but they have different funding histories.
And aren't we required contractually to do this on Smitty's Bog?
We have a relationship with the federal United States Department of Agriculture in that we do have responsibilities for managing that 100-acre property. Some things are allowed, some things are not allowed, and there is at least officially an annual inspection by the USDA to make sure that we're living up to those things. There also was an obligation, and I'm not sure how I'd characterize the document, but a requirement that we would be good stewards of the property and manage its transition back into a more natural state.
without allowing harm, such as, again, things that are not allowed, but sort of undo some of the harm that was done engineering-wise to Indian Head Brook and the overall wetland resource area that is where what the bogs were built out of. So, yes, there are some responsibilities there. We have been routinely inspected by the USDA, the regional office, and so on. But we also are managing it in the sense that we manage all our conservation areas. We have a responsibility to the open space and appreciated public and passive recreating public to at least do some things, improve some things. And one of the pieces of the second page of the information we just provided earlier shows what if we don't do the right things, what will happen. Not what might happen, but what will happen.
Yep.
And interestingly, if you look at that page, the natural stream corridor versus the frags, the stream corridor has here and there, like 3 or 4 narrow, light-colored shoots of tall things. Those are phragmites that have just got their foothold in there. On the right, in 5 or 10 years, is what it would look like. There were none of them around here 50 years ago, and now it's everywhere. So, but the good news is it's controllable, and that's why we're making this report.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions on Article 26, which is the $7,500 for the Phragmites? Okay. That brings us to Article 27. Now, this was for $40,000, and Ms. Green, what did you say is currently in the conservation budget?
I believe it was around $23,000.
Okay, so what we're hoping you got, because there was quite a list of potential things, or maybe they're all things that you're actually going to act on, but we were hoping that you might be able to give a little bit of background on this. Also wondering, are some of these things that you could use CPC money for and or grant money for, so that it's not coming out of free cash?
All of the above is applicable. The money that Ms. Green mentioned, I think that's what we have not quite finished spending from the current fiscal year.
Right.
I can assure you, and the committee can assure you, the Commission, that we have in hand a number of ongoing projects which are actively consuming that money, such that by the end of this fiscal year, by the end of June, most of that will have been spent. That's why we put together a few just illustrations, not by no means exhaustive, but just representative things. It costs money to do things like the meadows, the old kind of hospital fields, which are rapidly turning into toxic jungles of fries and things like that, needed to be maintained. We had to spend money on that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clements, can I just stop you?
Sure.
So are we paying an outside contractor to mow these fields?
The last time they were mowed, the year 2006. I don't know how that was funded, but that was by when everything was different. What we are doing, yes, we did have to hire an outside firm to do it because the nature of the work is unique, and a small investment in that mowing is going to make the 25 acres, which is now conservation land, much more feasible to use for recreation.
So this is not something that our highway department could do?
With present resources, I don't think so. I don't mind asking them to do small mowing jobs. This was a large one with special considerations. It called for people who are experienced in, with no disrespect to the highway department, knowing what things to mow and what things to not mow. An experienced firm does exist in this area, and they've been utilized for that. But that can be discussed in more detail another time. These are just examples. The new stairway there, that absolutely is being constructed mostly with grant funds that we had, and that, as Ms. Green knows, we struggled to add one more year of eligibility for that grant, and that's going to be very helpful. But on the left-hand side, you see a lot of trees. There is a lot of land clearing there for the trail to be able to go somewhere. That's largely being done with volunteer work right now, but we need to build things like this is shown on the next page, there's going to be a bridge crossing. And as Mr. Heel knows from being on the commission, we have probably half to 2/3 of our conservation land has wet spots, and sometimes very large ones. And trails can become unusable, or damage can be done by the public if we don't have appropriate crossings. We are trying to rise above where we have been for the last 50 years or so with conservation land management. Instead of people who grew up in the woods, they know how to get around, they don't need trails. Now, we do need at least some. And an example of the investment we've been making, and hope to continue to make, at least in the near future, is bog bridges and footbridges, such as the picture there. And closing out, just by saying, information for the public. We have just begun to post very useful information at the entrances to our properties. What it is, where you are on the planet, what's allowed, what is not, guidelines, educational pieces, ways to enjoy it better. And, but again, we have, as a town, never done a whole lot to actually create what we would call green infrastructure for low cost, close to home, healthy exercise and recreation for people who don't have the budget to go to the North Woods or on a cruise or something like that. They want to have their recreation, them and their dogs and everything else right around here. And we feel we're accommodating that, both with the funds that have been recently made available and with all the grant money we can find. We'll never stop looking at that. But we need to keep the smaller things going, the gates and the fences and things like that. And we also need, from time to seed money, to make grants more obtainable.
So, so if we, and I'm not saying we're going to do this, but we're pushing the envelope on every budget here.
Understood.
So if we were to say, we can't give you 40, we can give you 20, and would be more than glad to entertain another 20 at the October town meeting. Is that crippling? Are you not able to move forward with any projects, or?
It's actually a pretty simple formula. We grasped completely that this is a terrible budget crunch. Actually, probably every year Hanson's ever existed has been a budget crunch. But short answer is yes. We simply can aspire to fewer or slower schedule, if you will, for the improvements that we think are pretty sorely needed. The short answer is yes. We feel that we're simply trying to meet the demand that has become more and more clear over the last few years.
Yeah, and I definitely should have led with this, but I buried the lead. I'm extremely appreciative. As you know, I use a lot of the conservation properties. Ed's run into me himself on some of them. I have noticed a discernible increase in our active management of properties and in our labeling of properties and our communication of properties, and it's greatly appreciated. So I'm hesitant because I don't want the message to be, the Board of Selectmen don't support us. That is not what this is at all. We definitely want to support you, but we just had some questions about, are there specific projects that are earmarked for this $40,000?
We actually have created a spending plan.
Okay.
And we know what materials cost. We know what you have to buy that you can't do on a volunteer basis, or we also have, to make no mistake, we have received and hope to continue to receive a great deal of assistance from the Highway Department, for example, and sometimes the Water Department. We've had to move boulders, well, we can't do that with volunteers.
Right.
Front end loaders for that. So there will always be that sort of in the background, easy to take for granted teamwork, but we appreciate that very much and we'll continue to use that. What we are hoping to do is at least have something above zero to keep filling in the gaps that can only be done by spending a little bit.
Okay, that's super helpful. Did anybody have any questions? No? Okay. All right, thanks, guys. Thank you for being patient with us and sticking around. We appreciate it.
By the way, since I'm also on the community preservation thing, I didn't know if any questions about those articles, but I'm not volunteering to stay all night.
No, we didn't actually have any questions about community preservation. They were turned in on time, which was pleasant, because not everybody turned their articles in on time, and they seemed pretty,
Reasonable?
yeah, reasonable.
Some, it's a more ambitious and slightly longer list than some.
Definitely. Yep.
You would know that.
Yep.
So, good luck to all of us, right?
Yep, exactly. All right, thanks, guys, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so we, I guess we...
Oh, yeah.
So I actually just had Lynn put the discuss WHRSD assessment on there, pretty much up until town meeting. I'm hopeful that something might happen, but I don't have any update.
Okay.
So, you didn't have any update on that, right? The
No.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Okay, well, hope springs eternal. We've still got time, and I'm hopeful. Okay, so let's discuss, now, Lynn, I was looking at the annual town meeting, and I don't see, actually, I don't see in either one of them whether we've voted to recommend or not recommend in place. So how will I know which ones I have to?
Oh, yeah.
So,
I wanted to keep them, Lisa took them out, but I do have what I did last week, so I can print that out and bring it down for you.
I mean, in the alternate, the only other thing I can think of is we painfully need to go through each one of these in place to recommend.
I do have everything.
The warrant article, I mean, it is open, so it's fine. We can do it, and if, why don't we just do that? It probably is the safest course, because we've added articles in, and things have been moved around. I just don't want us to have any pitfall for the unwary here, and I would be the unwary.
so maybe Lynn should go get the ones that you have, so you'll know that you voted to either place and recommend, or voted just to place.
That sounds good, and then in the interim, do you want to tell us what changes you've made? Because there were, for instance, the South Shore Voc Tech. South Shore Voc Tech, we added back, they were in, and then there might be some funding changes in terms.
Yes.
So, did you want to we'll start with that, and then,
The place and the recommend, is it even on?
that's why that's what I just said.
It's not there at all.
No, it's not here.
It was.
With one of the older.
Well, in all honesty, at town meeting, it will be in the
I'm not sure.
handout, where you'll see FinCom recommended, selected, and blah, blah, blah. So I think they were starting to migrate in that direction, but that is crippling to us this evening. So we're going to put our tap shoes on and figure it out. Okay, so Lynn, have you brought that up? You're able to look at
Yeah, I
that?
can print it, I'm not.
Because we have
just looking
Okay.
at the-
This.
Yeah, it's, the warrant's written weird.
The warrant, we didn't say the new
The
each time.
meeting notes have
Yeah.
what
So
we've
it's not going to
placed
be-
and,
Yeah.
Oh, good point.
This right here. Actually, I'll wait till we get there.
Okay. Well, no, bring up whatever concerns you've
But I
got.
do
No
have
concerns,
last-
I can wait, I mean, it's not a big
Last
deal.
week's minutes, it has how you.
Ed just figured that out.
Just
Yeah.
pointed it out.
We're right there with you, putting together
And that's the
this.
same thing I was gonna print out, so you have more.
All right, well, we've got that. So we will
seems to cover everyone, right?
use,
Yeah.
Yes.
And nothing that we've placed or recommended has any changes, right? None of those articles have changed. Okay.
There might be small changes as far as a funding source. I know.
well, that's what I wanted you to call out.
Yes, there might be some small changes regarding that, but the basic content of the articles has not been changed.
Have you changed the number of the article?
There's possibly some numbers, because
Then this is
something
not
that
gonna be
is
helpful.
new on the annual.
Yeah, we gotta go through it, it's
Okay.
fine. I don't wanna, it's just too much could go wrong here. Okay, so, because if article numbers have changed, then I can't go back to our minutes from last meeting to figure out what did and didn't. But I commit to you, my brethren, that I will whip through this.
Okay.
And we will do this in record time. Okay, so let's start with the special town meeting, because we feel like we've accomplished something in a very short period of time. Article 1, I will entertain a motion to place and recommend. This was, again, typical free cash paying bills from last year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great.
Is Ms. Green gonna second?
place it.
Ms. Rain gonna second?
Oh, do you want to be our second, or are you going to ride shotgun on
Oh,
this,
she's
or?
got it.
Okay.
Plus, it will keep you warm.
Like, it will keep you warm to do something.
You can turn off the AC, I'm sorry, but it was getting toasty in here. Article 2, 24,800 from free cash to fund protective clothing. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $30,000 from fire and ambulance salaries of May 2022 annual town meeting, or take any other action in relation thereto. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
And you will note that came down, that was one of the articles that was reduced from last week, that is putting money back into free cash. Article 4, pardon?
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor? Thanks, Joe. Thanks for keeping me honest. All right, Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of $15,000 for private gravel roads. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 5, $73,560 from free cash to maintain adequate staffing levels while folks are training in the fire department. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 6, $10,000 to Old Colony Planning Council to update the master plan. This is another one that was originally going to come from free cash, but now we're changing the source to ARPA to give us some free cash. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 7, this is various capital improvement. Some of the ones for the Whitman Hanson Regional and the middle schools are reimbursements, but Ms. Green, anything else on that?
So we did move the financial analysis plan, which is now number 8, line number 8.
Oh, no, I'm still on 7.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, anything else with 7?
That is 7.
Oh, that is part 7. So if you look at number 8, select board,
Okay.
financial analysis and plan, that was originally going to come from free cash, but we've moved it to the ARPA money, to free up free cash.
Okay.
So that was added, and, was the water truck on there last time? No.
I'm not totally loving having that in the middle of the rest of these things that are, it's fine. Never mind. I'm just going to hold my thoughts on that. Okay. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Sleep at the wheel here.
Article 8, this is Community Preservation Fund. And this one was placed in the special versus the annual because we had Mr. Valachovic reach out, and the folks who are redoing the soccer field would like more immediate access to the money. They don't want to have to wait for the allocations after the town meeting, and the way to do that is to put it into the special town meeting, so warrant. So I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, I will entertain a motion to close the special town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. May annual town meeting. This is to hear, article number 1, to hear the reports of various town officers. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 2, this is the treasurer collector to enter into compensating balance agreements. This allows them to maintain accounts using credits instead of money to pay for banking charges. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 3, to see if the town will vote to fix the salary and compensation of town clerk from $75,639 to $77,630. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And by the way, if there's something that that you're saying nay to, please call it out, because I'm just clipping along here. All right. Article 4, to see if the town will revoke the provisions of Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws, ceasing the Hanson Transfer Station. We know what this is. This is getting rid of the revolving account. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 5, to determine what sums of money the town will raise and appropriate by taxation, yada, yada, and there's a whole list of them. This article refers to FY '24 annual budget lines that are presented in the informational warrant. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums of money to operate the transfer station, and it's retained earnings, taxation, et cetera, et cetera.
And those numbers are all still,
Now, are these numbers accurate, Ms. Green?
They were given to me by Eric tonight.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay. And we need this this article is necessary. This isn't one we're gonna pass over.
If Article 4 fails at town meeting, we will need Article 6. If Article 4 passes at town meeting, we will pass over Article 6.
Okay, and I see in the explanation that you've got that. I really think we need to call that out a little bit more. I don't know how we do it, and maybe you can check with Kate on this.
So actually, she gave me the language.
I'm fine with the language. I guess my question is, can we put it,
In the article?
or at least, at the very least, make sure that you're telling the town moderator where we're going with this,
Okay.
so that he can head this off at the pass, because if we...
this is confusing. The article will be passed over if Article 4 passes.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So
That's
I don't think that
not-
the general public is
No,
going to
they're not-
understand what the heck that means.
Okay. We'll fix that.
Okay. And we might want to, all right, that's fine. I'm just going to leave it at that. So anyway, I will entertain a motion to place, I don't know that we are going to recommend that, since we're recommending the elimination of the revolving fund. So my suggestion, and the board can take this or leave it, would be that we recommend, that we vote to place, because we have to have a contingency, but that we perhaps entertain that we are voting against this article, because if we're voting for the revolving fund, we don't want to be voting for, we don't want to be recommending this artiol.
And do
Mr.
we
Hill.
place it based on the changes she's going to be making, or do we need to see the changes?
We're placing it, I mean, the
wording
Kate's
can
going to
change.
approve the language, and the purpose isn't going to change. The explanation or something is going to be done to kind of call it out. So I don't think it's materially changing the article.
Okay.
So I will entertain a motion to place, because we're required to, but to not recommend Article 6.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer $35,000. I did have a discussion with Mr. Dugan, who is the chair of the FinCom, yesterday. He has got very serious concerns about the optics of adding a part-time position at this time, and the financials of adding a position at this time. One of the things that he had discussed was perhaps thinking about hiring a consultant to help Steve. We know Steve needs the help. So we know Steve needs help. I don't think anybody's questioning that. How does the board feel
How much
about
is a
this?
consultant going to
A
cost?
consultant?
Well, I mean, you make a good point. I really don't know.
It
Yeah.
seems to me when we outsource, we end up spending more money than if we just hire someone and
Okay.
have them be on board and get them, as a steady employee and
I'm totally fine with us making the argument. We know Steve needs the help.
Right.
For Pete's sake, we're in the middle of a website design plus a
Exactly.
million other things. So I'm
Everything-
totally fine. I just wanted to communicate
Yeah.
what Mr. Dugan
Well,
had said.
and he's gonna do that because
There's gonna be
that's his
some
job.
natural
It's his
friction,
job.
and that's
It's
the way
his
it
job.
goes. They're looking purely at financials, and we have to look
Right.
at financials and other things, so.
Did he give an idea of how much he thought a contractor or
No,
consultant?
he did not.
Because I've never known a contractor to be less than
No,
an
me
employee.
neither, not in IT.
All right, so is it the will of the board to move forward with this? If so, I'm fine with it. Okay, I will entertain a motion to place and recommend Article 7.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. had to convey that information. Article 8, this would be the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District budget, and again, our plan for this is in the informational warrant, to the extent that the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District assessment is not reduced to meet our 3.75, which is what we in all earnest, what we can earnestly afford, then we will have 2 articles in the information warrant, which are going to have different budgets. And are we going to say anything about that in here? In this article? How will people understand that we are recommending a different, that the school's coming in with one article and we're coming in with a different amount? How will they understand that?
From the language that Kate has provided in the informational warrant, it will have one line that will outline the school budget as voted by the school committee and assessed, which is the 14,161. There will be another line that will be what the Hanson Select Board and Finance Committee recommend, which would be the 3.75, which is the 13,741,741 figure.
Okay, I get that. I'm wondering if we can embellish the explanation a bit to say, please see informational article, which outlines sort of the town's proposed budget and the school's proposed budget.
Yes, sorry, I did not catch that, but yes, that we will beef up that language to direct people to the informational warrant.
Did anybody have anything else on that one? All right, I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 9, to save the town, this is the Chapter 90 money, that will accept Chapter 90 money, and of course we will.
Absolutely.
So I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Article 10, this is the various revolving accounts for assessors, parks and fields, library, et cetera, et cetera. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 11 is the wage and personnel bylaw, which we've gone over extensively. Were any further changes made after our last meeting to this, Ms. Green?
No.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
All in favor? Okay. And then that brings us to 12. And that is the Recreation Department budget. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 13. This is the article I am referring to as the Don Howard article, and regarding underground chambers and stormwater retention areas. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Article 14, which is the in-ground pool article proposed by the planning board, which they've supported. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. Article 15, which is capital improvement matrix. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Now, Article 16, we had a robust discussion in which I was swinging in the breeze at the end of, which I'm fine with. In light of our conversation with our interim town accountant tonight, do people still want to make sure that they've got this in the warrant? Anybody feel differently?
I think we decided to place and defer to town meeting, right?
Well, yeah, but we had not had a financial update.
Right. I think that's what we have to do, is put it on there, but it referred to town meeting.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to place and to defer to town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. Oh, well, I'm in favor of the placing. I am against deferring to town meeting. I don't think this should be,
You think?
4-1.
I'm voting against it.
You're voting for not placing them.
No,
she's voting
I'm
for not
voting to
referring.
place it because it's been here, but I do not, in all good conscience, when our town accountant's telling us we're gonna have $30,000 in free cash, I can't justify spending $25,000.
So you don't want to recommend?
I don't want to recommend
You,
it.
you don't want to recommend.
Right, but I'm not going to say they can't place it, because,
Right.
you know, it's a committee, they,
So the warrant, the article should read, 5-0 to place, 4 to defer to town meeting, 1 to not recommend. That's how it should read?
correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
you will.
Okay, all right, Article 17, this is the allocation of the community preservation funds, which is required by law, 10, 70, and then the administrative costs. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 18, this is the sleeper property, which we discussed. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 19, linen maps, submitted by Lee Gamache by Community Preservation. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 20, see if the town will appropriate $65,000 to purchase and erect a new playground at Cranberry Cove. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 21, to see if the town will vote to transfer $35,000 from Community Preservation Open Space Reserve for restoring of some landscape at the Camp Kawani Cranberry Cove and renovations to bathhouse. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 22, $1,500 to do the Economic Committee outreach for Hanson businesses. I will entertain a motion, wait a minute, what is this? Will be conducted, yeah, it's not just on Hanson's TIF, so I don't want to limit it to that. I'm not really sure where that's a little funky there, where that language came from. I think the Hanson Economic Development Committee will be conducting an outreach program by sending informational letters. Bam. Then take off on Hanson's TIF tax incremental financing, and programs. So we'll read the following way, Lynn. The Hanson Economic Development Committee will be conducting an outreach program by sending informational letters to existing Hanson businesses and to attract new businesses to Hanson. That weirdness in the middle on Hanson's TIF, yada, yada, that needs to be struck. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps doing that.
Huh?
For some reason, the word, it adds lines in between.
Oh, the spacing, yeah.
Yeah, the spacing. It's been doing that, so we have to keep checking it.
All right, I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And Article 23 would be the assessor's proposed article for property tax deferral for certain qualified seniors. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 24, to see if the town will vote to increase gross receipts, and this is again changing the income limits for the seniors, proposed by the Board of Assessors. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then that brings us to the ballistic vests, which is $22,000, proposed by the Police Department. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
All in favor? And then we've got the infamous Fragmity article, Article 26, for $7,500, proposed by Conservation. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then Article 27, where are we at with that? 40,000, or do we want to do 20,000?
I think
and then
20,000.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, where
Do
are
we
you guys
want to
at?
do like 30 and 10, or do you want to do?
You know what, you have to recuse yourself, you're on the
I'll recuse
Conservation Commission.
myself.
I feel like that's a conflict over there. Wear your select board hat right now.
Phil said he could do it with 20.
He did say he could do it, and then in all honesty, I do want to go, make sure we kind of like earmark a little 20,000 to go back to October town meeting, so that they ultimately getting the 40. All right, I will entertain a
Can I ask
motion.
one question about that? Just
Yes, yeah.
When we were talking about Don Howard's article, we had to go back to the planning board to have them approve it. Do we need to go back to the conservation
No,
commission
because
to have them approve it?
we're not changing the intent of the article, we're changing the amount that they're getting for it.
Thank you.
And I would assume, Ms. Green, that you will go back and let them know that we changed it. I believe Mr. Clemens is not going to be surprised, or Mr. Scallender. So I will entertain a motion. The article will read, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash or raise and appropriate $20,000 to replenish the conservation fund or take any other action in relation. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend that article as revised.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 28, that's the 10,800 to patch the garage shop roof. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 29, this is for the study which the Highway Committee needs to have done on the Highway Department site to see what's cooking there. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
I'll make that motion, but I was just curious about the explanation. I've just never seen a motion placed in the explanation.
You know what, something jumped the tracks here, guys. If in the explanation,
Take that out.
you see what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
So I know, I believe when the board looked at it last week, I think it was just put there so that we recognized that we are going to use, ARPA, we're gonna seek reimbursement from the one-time ARPA money.
Yep.
And if that's not approved, then we will pay this out of free cash. So I think that was just a notation in here, but we will take it out.
Can that part stay, but just the motion by Mr. Weeks, second by Mr. Heel?
I agree,
Yes.
Ed. I think that's important, a very important point, and I thank you for making it. I think that we want, in the interest of full disclosure, to let people know that we're going to try for the ARPA, but we might not succeed. Now, that said, if this gets funded and we don't get the reimbursement, does that change the number that Eric just gave us for free cash? Or did he count this into being funded from free cash?
He counted this in for being free cash.
Okay. Yes. All right. Okay, I lost my way. I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 30, various capital improvements. That's weird. Why do we have
I'm just gonna ask that.
why do we have an article referring to a separate capital improvement matrix, but we've got the capital improvement matrix? I know that there's a broader capital improvement matrix that we're not funding those articles, but why do we have that there?
So on the article for the capital matrix, we usually include a copy of the actual capital matrix in the informational warrant. This actually, this Article 30 actually shows the capital improvement projects that were voted on by the Capital Improvement Committee and recommended. So this kind of outlines
All right,
which
so I think in
projects.
order for anything to ever be funded by capital improvement, it has to be on the matrix. So maybe the other article is we've got a matrix, we're voting to say that we've got a matrix, and then this is what we're actually funding.
Yes.
I wish they were closer together, but since we've now just gone this tremendously long journey and voted specifically based on article numbers, I think we'll just have to make do. So I will entertain a motion to place and recommend Article 30.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 31, I had mentioned that if Mr. Hickey, AKA Tom Hickey, had pushed back on whether this needed to be done or not in this warrant, that we would try to accommodate. And in fact, he very politely but firmly let me know that he would really appreciate us having it in the warrant. And so that said, Lisa pushed on Ms. Fedorov to review it, and Ms. Fedorov said that she and Jay did not find anything problematic in their review, and so, am I misstating anything here?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And the town clerk's office will get a copy of it tomorrow.
Okay, so there's nothing problematic from our council's perspective, and the superintendent of South Shore Voc wanted it in there, so I will entertain a motion to place and recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 32, Hanson Board, this is the zoning. Now, Ms. Green, you did say that this is the spirit of these articles is accurate, but the articles have to state what the old language was and what the new language is going to be. So that will change, but what the new language, so what will be inserted is what the old existing language is, and then it will the rest of it will read as is. Does my explanation make any sense to anybody? Because I don't think I can say it again. Okay, all right, well, so procedurally, we have to have old language, new language. Currently, we only have new. Ms. Green's gonna have to update it to do old language, new language, but we're not meeting again before then.
I'm gonna go through all this tomorrow.
So these articles will be
I will try
tweaked to have old.
They're gonna be fleshed out.
Yes,
Okay.
but the intent of the article is not changing. There's no, you know, so I will entertain a motion.
We were waiting to make sure that before you do that.
And planning did support all of them.
Okay, just wanted to make
Yes,
sure.
they actually proposed them, and they did support all of them.
Okay, good.
So I will entertain a motion to place and recommend articles that will be reflecting the old current regulations and the new proposed regulations as written in the warrant.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Okay, so that would be Article 32, 33, 34, 35, and that's it. That's 35. So 36.
It's 36.
And 37.
Oh, yeah, 36,
Pork chop.
37, and that's, and then, yeah, 36. So let's try that one more time, it's failing. So I will entertain a motion to approve, place and recommend Article 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37 with the addition of the current language into each of those articles.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? And that brings us to Article 38, and as you know, we got the language, estimated costs from our legal counsel, which was anywhere, it really could vary depending upon how much work the residents on those streets do themselves, which I don't think is a super sustainable model, and I'm wondering who the heck would even manage that process if that was where we went, versus having the legal firm do it, but it could go as high as $75,000 for the legal work. And so I did mention to Ms. Green, this is a citizen's petition, so the language needs to remain as is. We cannot modify the language, but we have put a little note, please see additional information listed in the information warrant. And this is one where I would like to see Ms. Federoff get up and speak to what needs to be done, because I think the average person doesn't appreciate that you own to the middle of the road, easements, deeds, all of that documentation needs to be done. And if funded, this is potentially $75,000 we do not have.
We're not budgeted for.
We are not budgeted.
Do you know what the low end of it was if the neighbor?
The low end was maybe $50,000.
It's not a big savings.
So it's not a huge savings, and like I said, honestly, Ed, when I looked at what the town council wrote, I was like, well, who the heck's gonna manage whether people are contacting their banks? This is literally what the suggestions are. Well, if they wanna contact their banks, and if they wanna do this, and I'm thinking, right, but then somebody's gonna have to be coordinating with every single homeowner, and that's not something our office is staffed to do at all. So I'm very concerned about this. If it passes, we're going to have to cut some things, because this will be $50,000 to $75,000 we don't have. We won't even have enough in free cash, even if we wanted to completely deplete our free cash account.
What it will do is it will completely, it will deplete our legal services line. That's where it will come out of. So it will leave us with very little left for legal services, but that's where it would come from.
We're gonna have other legal issues that we're gonna have to take care of.
But
So if we have 39,000 rounded up to 40,000, and conservation just gave us 20 back, that gives us 60,000. Right off the top, I can think of $15,000 from grading the other private roads to make this one public. And there we have the 75,000. So if the citizens really want to put it forth to make this a public street. The other people that are going to suffer would be other private way. I'm only thinking right off the top of my head because it's 15,000.
Okay, but let's think this through, right? Because this is coming at the very end of the town meeting. At which point, all of the other articles have been discussed and voted on, and money has been appropriated. So I'm not even sure procedurally how that would work. Because we're going to get to the end, and if this passes, we can't open that, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. I mean,
Okay.
The genie's been let out of the bottle. We've already funded all of that stuff.
And this is going to cost us $75,000 that we don't have.
Correct.
So how can it pass?
I think it's going to be important as we get to the end of it. You just keep a tally. You just say at the very end of it, this is where we're at. I mean, everybody at the beginning of it asks how much we have.
Yes.
They keep track of it, just at the very end of it. I mean, to me, it's, it is dire. It makes a lot of sense. It's just, keep it simple. At the end of the day, we're going to have $30,000 left. This is potentially 75. And anybody that's worked with lawyers knows that 75 really means 180,000. So
Yeah,
it's
Ms.
not.
Green, I don't think saying it's coming from our legal line, that is not sustainable. We have a budget for legal matters based historically on the legal matters that come before this board. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul if we say, oh, well, it's coming from the legal line. It's coming from the legal line. That's not going to stop the other issues that this board typically and historically has seen. We know what our spend rate is on that. So at some point, we're going to have to, probably in the October town meeting, if this passed, we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to ask for an additional $75,000 for legal costs. So I don't want to mix it up by acting as though it's baked into our legal budget. It is not.
No, it's not, but that's where we have
Free
to.
cash? Can we somehow make that happen? That if it
This
doesn't
is
happen,
a citizen's petition. There's
You know what I
no
mean?
funding source listed in the article.
But I don't want it to come out of our.
And nor would there be, because this is not a funding, see, for the citizens petition, their viewpoint is, we're simply compelling you guys to do this. It's completely neutral on how it would be paid for. And I think, in all honesty, there may not have been a full appreciation by everybody of what all of the costs involved in this would be. And I even have to say that, it took me a little while to figure out. I was like, well, wait, they've got to go to the bank, they've got to go to the registry, they've got to get deed easements, everybody has to agree. That's another question that's a big elephant in the room, is what if you've got a holdout or somebody who just isn't responsive? And this has to all be done within 120 days of this passing.
And is there an option that we can offer them or they could come up with it? Their homeowner association is going to come up with the money. It's got to
First
come
of all,
from
they
us.
took great umbrage to us calling it homeowners
Right.
association. So, and they don't have a homeowners
do not have
association.
I just wonder what they're going to come up with.
They have a group a group that's coalesced to support this issue, but there's no, it's not like, if, say it was like, a condo association or a typical HOA, there are no funds. These guys don't have a bucket of money that they're, that we can say, look, we'll split it with you, or or we'll,
Right, they don't have it yet, but if
No.
it was me, if it was my neighborhood, I would say, okay, we need 75,000 in order for to get this to go. Do we as a neighborhood want to say we will pay the 75,000 to defray the legal costs? I don't know if they would or not. Is that even doable
My
if it was?
deep-seated suspicion is that they would not.
They would not do it, or
They
it's
would
not legal
not
for
be
them to
looking,
do
they
it?
would not be looking to fund this.
Okay.
I think a lot of the folks that live there feel as though they've been paying significant amount of taxes for, houses that are fairly large, and that this is a snafu and it's on the town to fix it. But I don't know, so I don't know what, again, we don't need to vote to place or recommend. We can make a decision that we don't want to recommend it because of the cost. We can defer it to town meeting. We can vote to recommend it. these are the paths that are open to us.
Did we vote to recommend it?
Have we ever done that? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we've done
Yeah.
recommendations.
It has
and
to
not
be
rec-
placed.
No, that's
There's
not what I'm
no-
asking.
yeah.
I'm asking.
Yes, we have.
We have done
Yes, we have.
recommendations, because
Yep.
I feel like we've always just kind of let it fly to the.
No, not
townspeople.
always, no.
Okay.
Because there's been other,
I
like,
would just, let's say you let it sit, because it's a citizen petition.
Yep.
People, the people that show up are smart, they're gonna figure out, how much, where they wanna put their money. And they're gonna have a tally of how much we have left over, and I don't wanna overcomplicate it. You're gonna see how much money you have, you're gonna see how much money this is gonna cost, and it's up to the people to figure out where they wanna put their money. And that's simple as that.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we'll have it in the informational warrant. Highway said there might be some modest costs as well, and I think we saw the report from environmental planning, where they had done some estimates of, but again, it wasn't day one. Tony emphasized that it was not day one that any repairs needed to be done. So really, the more immediate cost, because of that 120-day timing, is the legal costs. So, okay, so Ms. Green, if we could just make a note to speak to Mr. Keeley, our moderator, and make sure that Ms. Federoff is given some time to address this, and then you're going to include it in the, and then, yes, I do think this is a point. Well, we would typically do it at the end of all of the funding, is say where we're at for free cash and the like. So, all right. So no need to entertain any motion on that. It's placed and there's nothing there. And then Article 39, again, placed. I don't know if people wanted to vote to recommend or just leave it.
Just leave it.
Okay.
Leave it.
All right. All right, then, any other questions or discussion? I will entertain a motion to close the May annual town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, fine. Warrant, I should say. Okay, so that brings us to someplace where I don't know because I don't have my agenda.
Get the sheets for you to sign off.
What are you saying?
I'm gonna take the current warrant, take the draft off the last page so you can sign it.
Did you make the changes?
There's draft
When do we
in
need to
the
come in to
footer.
sign?
There's
No,
draft
no,
in
I
the
mean, did
footer.
you make the changes we discussed tonight?
No, I was gonna make them tomorrow. Do you wanna sign it tomorrow then, or?
I think we should not be signing something that is not fully complete and changed
Okay.
in accordance with the votes we took
Right, I'll
tonight.
make the changes and send them out to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Right, because we will need everybody to sign, because we have to get them out to the constables to post.
Okay, and what's our deadline for
It
that?
has to be done this week,
I
by
can
the
come
end of
in
this
on
week.
Thursday.
Yeah, it has to be done by
Yeah, I'll
then.
come in on Thursday.
By Thursday?
I mean, okay, that's fine. Let's see, discuss what I think we're beating that one to death. One-day liquor license, request for waiver.
Yeah, what is that? New to me.
It's the bridal show.
It is new to me. I'm a little surprised that they're waiving it. Is this a not-for-profit event?
Yeah, it says nonprofit.
It is nonprofit, okay.
This is for them.
They're putting it on.
They're putting it on.
Oh, okay, fine. Because I thought it was, in years past, there was another company that did like a rustic bridal, I don't know what it was called, but, okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the request for a fee waiver. It seems odd to me, though, like, since it's an event that they're putting on, we never would charge them for putting on an event up at Camp Kawani because they're the Recreation Commission who does not have to pay a fee.
I think they just want to go by the book.
But is it
Maybe
because
it's just extra-
it's alcohol? I mean, are they trying to make it official because there's going to be
Oh,
alcohol?
you know what, that actually is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're waiving the one-day liquor license
Right,
fee is what we're doing.
exactly.
Okay. I will
So
entertain a
moved.
motion. Okay,
Second.
good. All in favor?
Aye.
And then we've got a bunch of other one-day liquor licenses. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Any committee updates? Okay. I will approve open session.
We got a
No,
What?
we can wait.
Oh, no, if you have to tell us,
Well,
go
we
ahead.
had a meeting, we're gonna be off next week, we had
Yeah.
a RAC meeting last night. And I went to the school committee the week before.
Yes.
The school committee voted, or the motion was put out on the floor to not do a 2/3 vote, and it fell short by a 4-5 and 1 abstention. So the school committee decided to do the 2/3 vote. Whitman had already voted on it. The Whitman Board of Selectmen, they voted it down 2-3. They do have a meeting tonight, and I'm hoping that they re-vote. This is a big thing.
It is a big thing.
For us. And then we'll work on the language, but before we wanted to spend any time doing that, we wanted all three committees, to vote for it, then look into the legal aspects of it. If anyone heard me, at the school committee meeting last week, it is basically for the statutory method.
Yep.
Basically, that is it. We never brought it up during any of our RAC meetings. So I told the school committee this is exactly why. Because Whitman will always have a 6-4 advantage, and this only makes it possible that, we'll just say in 2029, when the new agreement is in place and it's 3 years later, that Whitman cannot come back with a 6-4 advantage to say, we want to go back to the alternative method.
At which point it might be more financially favorable for them. Yeah.
Correct. So we're just waiting on the Whitman Board of Selectmen to go further with this discussion.
Well, we are hopeful.
Yep.
I hope you works that third vote. We'll see.
No, I think it's great. Just out of curiosity, and thank you for those that are watching, that you voted for us. The other 3 that didn't, though, any insight into why, what we could do?
I think there was a misunderstanding at the beginning, because when I introduced it, it was a 2/3, and I wanted to keep it simple, 2/3 vote on anything, even like on a field trip. And that's not what the committee or I was looking for. It's merely major financial concerns. And this, honestly, as I spoke last night, I looked up the word partnership. I wanted the definition before we went into this. And it does show a partnership, even with the 6-4 advantage, that under no circumstances would statutory be removed unless 7 of the members, voted for it.
The new agreement, though, would need to provide for an alternative method, because if you don't have both statutory and alternative, you can't vote any other method. It has to be in the agreement.
Right.
But statutory would be the default, and that's what it would say, unless you take a vote to the contrary. So.
My phone is ringing, so I'm not sure if it's the Whitman Board of Selectmen or not. So it's going to be discussed. We have next week off because of the holiday, but we'll be back at it on the 24th. And even with members leaving, we're going to do this week to week until each one of those members are gone. So.
Okay, well, we thank you for all of your hard work on that.
I think the fan is on.
With that, I will entertain a motion to approve open session minutes from April 4th, 2023.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? And Ms. Green, Town Administrator's Report.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. 2 weeks ago Friday, I attended the Mass Municipal Management Association monthly meeting. And during that meeting, they had a presentation from the Mass Cyber Center on cybersecurity. And actually, they had us do a role-playing type of exercise that would really bring different departments together and have us work through how to deal with a cyber attack that were to take a municipality's system down and network. And my table, we had the treasurer, we had the cybersecurity, or like the IT director, we had the insurance company, and a few other players. And it was really interesting to see how the different approaches that people would take when you're dealt with a cybersecurity, because you really don't get advance notice of this. It hits you. And you're in a blackout, a power outage. What do you do with things like that? So hackers are getting very sophisticated. They send these tests out to see if they can draw somebody in. And we stay one step ahead, they figure it out, they get one step ahead, so it's just a constant cycle. So it was great to learn Mass Cyber Center is a resource that's available to us. They provide training and information, things like that. So it was a very good exercise to sit through. So it really opened my eyes of what happens when something like that happens. I don't have a whole lot since last week. A lot of my time has been focusing on finalizing the warrants, the special and the annual, working on the budget and coming up with the funding sources for the different articles. I, again, spent time on public records requests. People love to request public records, but I spend my time devising the estimate for the fees, putting together a log with the estimates and sending those letters out within the 10 days as required. Personnel matters, again, took up time with filling out some various forms and things like that. And I just, circling back to that cybersecurity, I just really want to commend Steve on the good job that he's doing with the training, with the grant that we got for the training. Really brings it out to people on what to look for, because, like I said, they get very sophisticated and they make the emails and things like that look very real.
And Ms. Green, are you guys, hopefully everybody's getting the little emails from the cybersecurity training that we're supposed to be doing, and hopefully everybody's doing those trainings.
I didn't do the other one.
They're, I'm not going to lie, they are a bit painful, but
Yes, they are.
but necessary.
They are, but it's necessary
This one
in
wasn't
this
as
day
bad
and
as
age.
many other trainings that I've been to.
Yeah. I've been working on the information that the Collins Center is looking for the wage and classification, which basically includes putting all the department head, the current salaries, where our salaries were in FY22, putting together, gathering all the job descriptions, the number of hours, putting a table together and getting that to them. So I've been kind of piecemealing that, putting that together a little as we speak, just to keep that project going. So hopefully we will be eligible at least to apply for another community compact grant when the next round comes out. And I'd like to announce as well, we received a letter from Acting Fire Chief Robert O'Brien regarding a new paramedic / firefighter who's coming on board. Her name is Colby Silva. She has satisfied all the pre-employment requirements and will begin her full-time career with the town of Hanson on April 24th of 2023. She will be temporarily assigned to days for 2 weeks, and then the D shift until her acceptance to the Massachusetts Firefighter Academy. So we want to welcome Ms. Silva to Hanson. She comes from Halifax, and she comes with some experience. So she's a welcome to fill vacancies that we've had.
Ms. Green, while we're on the subject of our acting fire chief, Robbie O'Brien, who we're thrilled to have, I'm wondering, I'd like to give some consideration to how we are going to thank Ms. Chief Thompson for his many years on the job. And I'm hoping that you can work with our acting chief, Robbie O'Brien, to coordinate something. It seems to me as though maybe town hall-wide, town employee-wide. I'm not sure. There's an awful lot of people who probably want to thank Jerry for his service. So
yes, we can certainly coordinate
I'm not
something.
sure what that looks like, but I'm sure Robbie will have some insight as to what is traditional and how it's typically done. But it's been 16 years since we've had a new fire chief, so nobody on this board has any experience with that. So
I will work with our acting chief and we will put something together.
okay, great.
And actually, that concludes my town administrator report for this week.
Okay, did anybody have anything else?
Madam Chair, if I may, I
Yes,
just
please.
wanted to thank Lisa. She showed up at the, well, actually it was at Camp Kawani last Friday during a men's group meeting. We didn't let her sit in.
I was wondering
No,
if she was.
we're very
okay, all
strict
right,
on
okay,
that.
yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I just wanted to say thanks to Lisa because she came in and answered a couple of questions for the guys, and it was nice to see that.
Yeah.
Because I know it hasn't happened, you know, in the past, so.
No, I don't think so. It's been years since I think we've had anybody from our office go to the senior center.
Yeah. And it wasn't that we didn't want to offer you coffee, Lisa, there was none left, so, you know, I just wanted to say thanks.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to intrude on the, you know, on the cards, but, you know, that's guys' time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's pretty cool that they even let you speak. I think they've got a pretty strict code there, so.
Well, the car racing got their attention.
There you go, so you have
Yeah, I
that.
tried to get them back
Okay.
focused on me, but, so that's it.
All right, anything else? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, great, thanks, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Are you sure?
We get next week off.